Hi there. Welcome to the Kessler Law Firm podcast. I'm Michael Kessler, your host, chief cook and bottle washer here at the Kessler Law Firm for going on 40 years. On today's episode, I want to continue a conversation about one of my more recent cases, allowing you to follow it every step of the way, from the decision by the Port St. Lucie police to file a charge all the way through the arrest, the docket calls, the discovery, the depositions, and finally to trial. My client is a nice lady and she never should have been charged. Unfortunately, the case took almost 3 full years to get to trial. As with the previous episode, I'm going to let her tell you all about it from her point of view. Today, she will talk about her decision to seek a lawyer, her meeting with me and my staff, and what she went through for about 6 months before she was actually charged with a crime. She also talks about the experience of being charged, being accused, turning herself in, securing a bond to get out of jail so that she could continue to work and take care of her children while waiting to see what was going to happen next.
Leaving the police station, I still did not know at that time if in fact it was my vehicle. I did ask Detective Thompson that night when I was leaving, do you know in fact that was my vehicle? And he said, as of right now, you're the only person I have and the only vehicle I have. Unless something else comes up, then yeah, it looks like it probably was your vehicle. So of course I signed my vehicle over to them so they can do all the forensics and whatever they need to do to make sure if in fact it was my vehicle. I will say they never came out and told me for sure that it was my vehicle. I found that out through Geico, because Geico at that point got involved through, I guess, Port St. Lucie Police Department contacted them that was doing everything on the vehicle. So it was like an active case at that point. So at that point, I didn't really, that's when I found out it was my vehicle. It wasn't that the Port St. Lucie Police Department told me, in fact, it was my vehicle. I will say right after that night that I went to the police station, and I didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't know if I was going to be charged. I didn't know if it was my vehicle. Like, I didn't know any of it, and I didn't even know what you would be charged for, because again, I'm thinking I've never been in a situation like this before. I've never been in trouble before. I don't know. So in my mind, it's like, okay, if you come to the police station and you're like, hey, like I had something happen to my car, I heard this, I need to know if that I would think like, oh, if it is your vehicle, yes, it was, but there's no ramifications really of that, because if you didn't see anything, how would you know? You know what I mean? But yet if you're finding out after and you're going in and saying, oh my gosh, I was on this road, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know the laws, and I didn't know any of that stuff. But speaking to people that have after that, I was told it may be wise for you to maybe go speak to an attorney. And that was kind of scary in itself to think about. Why would I need to speak to an attorney? Like, again, I didn't go there with an attorney. I went there thinking, as you should, like, you hear this, go in, find if it's out your car. Why would you need an attorney there? If you have nothing to hide, right? And even if I know that sounds, what's the word I'm looking for? Because I know people don't get attorneys if they're hiding stuff, but I just felt like you speak the truth, you say what happened that night, and all is well, right? So my friends at the time told me they knew of an attorney and to go speak to this attorney. So I did, and from the moment I met him, I just The vibe I did not like. He was very arrogant. And his first thing he said to me after I told him what happened was, "Oh, you're very believable." He's like, "If we put you on a stand, people would believe you." And I just thought, like, but I'm telling the truth. Like, what do you mean I'm believable? Like, I'm telling you the truth. So I just, I did not like, I mean, I've never had an attorney before. I've never had to go speak to an attorney, even getting divorced. My ex-husband and I never got attorneys. So I did not feel comfortable. And then after that point, one of my girlfriend's sisters had an issue many years ago, something totally different of the situation I was in. And she said, talk to my sister, like, just, talk to my sister. So I talked to her, and her exact words to me is, you need to go see Michael Kessler. He's the best. You need to call him. You need to go see Michael Kessler. So that's what I did. I made a phone call. I went in to see him. It was literally right before New Year's, I believe New Year's Eve. I went to see him because the accident was the 17th of December. So it was like right before New Year's. And he was kind, soft-spoken, and just asked me, what can he do for me? And I sat down and I told him everything that happened that night in my recollection. And never once did he ask, did you do that? Did you see him? Did you leave? Like any of the things that, I guess would be maybe normal questions an attorney maybe would have asked. He never asked me that. He believed in me from that moment. He said, this is what, well, moving forward, like this was what can happen. And, if you do decide, to put your trust in me and have me represent you, this is the next step kind of thing. Explain what we would do next. So I absolutely said, yes, of course. He made me feel so comfortable and heard and at ease, because still at that point, you're kind of a little still at ease because you really don't know everything. And at that point, Michael doesn't go into all of the laws and stuff with you because, of course, at this point I wasn't charged, right? So Michael never thought I would be charged. So there's that as well. So once I said absolutely, like, I would love if you represented me. And he basically drew up, I forgot what it's called, but it's basically, he said, at this point, you keep one in your purse, one at home. You're to speak to nobody. If a police officer, anybody comes to your door, anything, you hand them this letter. You don't say anything. They contact me. Like, do not say another word to anybody or any of law enforcement, detectives, anything from this point on. I will handle that. So he came in and just took care of everything at that point. And then after that, we sat and talked a little bit about what they could charge me for, right? Because at that point we didn't know, I wasn't charged. So it could be one from, Michael explained, leaving the scene of an accident / fatality, or they can charge you with vehicular homicide. But both are different, because vehicular homicide, they would have to prove that I drove in a reckless manner that took somebody's life, right? I was under the influence. I was texting and driving. I ran a light. Anything that would have been reckless, which I did none of those. So I knew that I would not get that charge. That I kind of knew. And so did Michael, even though, of course, at that point, there's no discovery, any of that stuff. But so we kind of knew if they were going to charge me, that's probably the charge they would have charged, was leaving the scene, because in fact, I did leave a scene, but yet a scene I didn't know there was a scene of, you know. So, Michael again explained how under the law, they would have to prove I knew or should have known I hit a person, not an object, not an animal. I hit an actual person. So again, I don't know the law, and Michael was very good about explaining that, because you hear leaving the scene of an accident / fatality. That's what you think the charge is, right? So you think that's what they have to prove. You left the scene of an accident / fatality. Unless you're an attorney and know the law, under that is you either knew or should have known you hit a person. So Michael was so amazing with explaining every aspect of where it could go if there was a charge, what they would have to prove, evidence would have to show. So is the more you know, I can't say it makes you feel better, because you know what happened that night. Your attorney believes in you, knows what happened that night, and you know that even if they have camera footage, they're going to show they're not inside my vehicle, right? Cameras are going to show if there is camera footage, you hit somebody and you kept going. That's not going to show that I knew or shouldn't have known, but I knew in my heart everything I did from that point on shows I had no idea. I had no idea. So you just have to trust your attorney, and you have to you know, trust the system if you are going to get charged. But after that, it was very nerve-wracking. I mean, I couldn't go home for 3 weeks. I stayed with my ex-husband. I just couldn't be alone. I literally was I mean, I couldn't even go to Publix. My ex-husband said you have to get out of the house, and I didn't even want to leave anywhere. I was sick over the thought that there's a life lost here, right? I mean, I never saw him, but somebody lost their life, and I've lost close people to me tragically, and I know your life changes forever. So, and here we're on the holidays, right? And all I could keep thinking is about is, you know, does he have a wife? Does he have children? Does he have grandchildren? Like all of these things go through your mind, and how this family is dealing with this, and how horrible this was. So I literally was sick. I could not eat. I would throw up, just sick for the thought of what this family could be going through at this point, and how I've been through, you know, horrible things, and I don't wish that upon anybody. So that was really hard, and that was a state of mind that I've lived in for a very, what seemed like a long time. So it was 6 months before they charged me. So I lived in that for a while. I also lived in constant fear, were the police going to come to my door at any time, or my place of work, and arrest me? Like, was I going to be at, you know, Christmas dinner or New Year's dinner with my family, and I was going to get a knock on the door? You're in constant fear of what's going to happen. Like, are they going to charge you? Are they not going to charge you? You're not hearing anything. You're not knowing anything. So, you know, Michael also was great with speaking with him and got me in touch with, listen, just call, here's a bail bondsman, because if they in fact do charge you, you're going to want a bail bondsman and know how it works and all of that, which my bail bondsmans that Michael recommended were amazing. Patrick, them two would say like, we've never seen anything like this. I can't even imagine they would charge you, but they were so kind that every week they would check the system because they see the warrants that come out daily and let me know like, okay, Kirsten, you could sleep tonight. There's no warrant on you. They were just because they knew like I was living in constant fear of what's to come. And then it was probably, oh my gosh. After it was maybe, yeah, so that was after. So it was living in constant fear, not being able to sleep at night, hearing any car door. Like if neighbors had people over and you heard a car door, I remember being like, oh my gosh, are they in my parking lot? Are they coming to arrest me? Like that, this was, if I was at work and we'd have like cops come in because there was something going on in the area. It was like a constant fear of when and if, right? Because there was the if part, if they're going to charge, but when. So you're living in a constant state of fear, grief of what transpired, fear, not just for yourself, but I have two children. So fear for my kids, which my kids couldn't wrap their head around, like, they're not going to arrest you. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. You would never do that. Yes, the people who know me know that. So you learn that as you go along. But, when you have an innocent mind and think like, oh, you do the right thing, you're a good person, like this can't happen to you, right? Think again, because it can. So it took them a little over 6 months to charge me, all the while calling Geico asking, when can I get my car back? Like, I just bought this car. I didn't even have it a month. I'm paying my insurance and car payment every month on a vehicle I don't have. I don't have a car now. So when can I get my car back? And of course, Port St. Lucie would not release my car. It took them 17 months to release my car. So they kept my car for 17 months. And so that was, I'd call Geico and get little bits of information through Geico because I wasn't getting any information through Port St. Lucie Police Department at that point, nor was I going to talk to them because I have Michael at that point. So I was not going to call them. It wasn't until after I was charged, it was a weekday. I don't even remember if it was like a Tuesday or Wednesday of the week. I just came home from work and Patrick called me and he said, time to roll. He's like, the warrant was just issued. Get in your car and drive to Rock Road right now. Like, leave the house now. He said, because if you don't, they're going to come to the house and they will arrest you in front of your kids. Like, just get in the car and go. And I just remember, like, I've never been so afraid or grab things. And like, you're like with the chick running around, like it's a situation, like I said, I don't wish upon anybody. So just got my things, jumped in the car, shaking, called my ex-husband, called my circle who I needed to, called Michael, let them know what's going on. And got to Rock Road and Patrick was great, met me there and he talked me through like, okay, this is probably what's going to happen. You're going to go in and it's a protocol. They're going to handcuff you. They'll bring you back. They're going to process you and then you'll be out. We pay the bond. You'll be out. And I thought, okay. And they never handcuffed me. I will tell you, the people at Rock Road were amazing. They read the warrant and they just said, I'm so sorry. We're going to get you out of here as fast as we can and process you because you do not belong here. And that's exactly what they did. They brought me in, processed me, and I was in and out very, very quickly. Thank God. And it was after I was processed that's when the news came out, because there was the night of the accident, the news that there was a hit and run, but there were no names involved. Once I was charged, it was everywhere. Your name is everywhere. It's all over TV. It's all over the news. Like you're this horrific, horrible person that took somebody's life and would leave them on a road to die, which that is not who I am. You know, all over social media, Port St. Lucie scanner, for people just to say the nastiest things about you. Having to keep your kids home from school for fear of what kids in school would say to them. Granted, their close circle of kids that they've grown up with and their best friends knew, their parents knew, and they all are very supportive and still are till this day. But it's other kids. So it's like, you got to protect your kids. It's like I said, it's a situation I don't wish upon anybody. But where I was going with this is, after, once your name is out and there's news articles, I didn't read any of the news articles the same way, because I don't watch the news. My friend Anthony, you know, called me and he said, you know, did you see the TC Palm article? And I said, no. And he goes, you need to read it. He said, because, you know, people need to really read this article. It's going to change a lot of things, because it's not what people think it is. And I said, what are you talking about? He goes, I'm sending you the article now, read it and call me back. So I read the article, and in that article, it stated who the person's name was who passed away that night. It stated that he lived in not a halfway house, a sober house. Again, not saying that this person is a horrible person, but now I'm getting to find out who this person is, because I didn't know who this person was. Lived in a sober house. That night was 3 times over the legal limit, from the toxicology report. 6 weeks prior to the night of that event that changed my life forever, he was Baker acted by an Okeechobee cop, because he told an Okeechobee cop to take him to jail, and the cop said, I can't just take you to jail. And he said, well, let me out of your vehicle, and I'm going to go step in front of a moving vehicle and take my life. And reading that, the grief at that moment switched to anger. That point was just pure anger, because at the point that I was charged, if anybody ever is in a situation like this and knows, it's not cheap to fight for your life. And, you know, Michael is worth every penny, but when you don't think stuff is going to happen like this in your life, and you live on a day-to-day and run a household and have 2 kids and work and have your bills and all your stuff, people don't have laying around these days that kind of money to pay for legal fees for someone to fight for not only your name, your innocence, and your life at this point. So I had to leave the home I lived in with my children. My children had to go live with their father. I had to sell everything I own as far as furniture to pay for my defense at that point. So it changed my whole life. My whole life. It changed my kids' life. I've been a stay-at-home mom for 17 years before I went back to work. I have never been without my children. They have never been without me. Like I said, I had such sickness and grief and fear and all these things, but I will say, reading that, it really turns to anger, because I know this person's a victim, but or what they think is a victim, there's another victim here as well. There's another person's whose life was turned upside down because somebody decided to not be seen, and that's why I never saw him, and had to go through the events of 3.5 years of what I've had to go through because of that, because of his choice. So that's a hard pill to swallow.
We will continue with Kirsten Nance's story in our next episode, as we both went through the long journey of depositions and docket calls that took nearly 3 years before we finally got her case to trial. Thanks for joining us today on the Kessler Law Firm podcast. Whether you're watching this on YouTube or listening to it on your favorite podcasting site, please click subscribe or follow so that next time you come back, our latest podcast will be ready and waiting for you. If you'd like to connect and find out more about us, visit our website at www.kesslerlawfirm.com. And we'll see you around the courthouse.